Hello! Welcome to the Millcast. I'm Amanda, and it is Monday, June 19th, 2023. You will notice, if you've been watching for a while, that I am missing my co-host today. And that is because Peggy she's actually heading to Chicago for the wholesaler convention, H&H Americas, where she is going to work to peddle our yarn, see if any yarn shops are interested in carrying Junction Fiber Mill. It should be an adventure. As we talked about last time in the episode, we got into Rhinebeck, or as it's known, the New York Sheep and Wool Festival in Rhinebeck, New York this fall. So we are not quite sure capacity-wise how much we actually have for wholesale, but she's going anyways. She is gonna meet a lot of folks, and she sent ahead like 4 huge packages full of our yarn for her display, and we'll see how it goes. I'm sure she'll be checking in throughout the week. In the meantime, we have a great episode for you today. I sat down with one of our new employees, Emma, and talked to them about their experience starting at the fiber mill, so you'll get to meet them in a little bit. But what can I tell you? It is a beautiful sunny day today in White River Junction. We've had rain here in Vermont for like the last 3 weeks. This weekend was no exception, so I am just absolutely thrilled to see the sun come up. If for no other reason than we finally broke down and did our laundry, which we like to line dry in the summertime just to save a little bit of energy. And I put it out there this morning, fully expecting it to get poured on. So I think at least for now it's safe, and hopefully we'll be safe until I'm home later today. This weekend, Father's Day weekend, Cody and I got out with Maeve. You'll see a little video here, but we hiked to the top of Mount Mansfield in Vermont, and that baby did a great job. We had her in a little hiking backpack, and we have a little rain cover too, which we put on shortly after we filmed that video. That video was from the summit where we were in a cloud, so it didn't feel that wet and rainy, but when you look at us, you're like, what's wrong with these people? It is totally wet and rainy, and they've got their baby, but she did great. She was joyful the whole way up the mountain. The summit, it got a little touch and go, but we were sort of up and down. We didn't hang out for very long. Both Cody and I have hiked that mountain many times. In fact, before the mill and before Maeve, we hiked pretty much every weekend. So we've done all the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. We did a lot of the tall mountains in Vermont. There are fewer, but they're still great. In Vermont, we like to say we're hiking so that we can go get some really, really good food afterwards. There's just a little bit less available in New Hampshire. So that's more about the mountains. In Vermont, it's more about the nice trip to, we went to Pro Pig last night afterwards. So that was great. I also reconnected with my college roommates. There were 5 of us living together in college, and it just so happened that the 3 that don't live in this area were all visiting, so that was very nice to have an evening with them. They came over to the house, met my daughter, and it was just so great to do. We realized it's actually Dartmouth reunion weekend, which we're really close to Dartmouth, so there's signs everywhere for the 10-year reunions, and I also am at almost the exact 10-year mark post-college, so we had our own little mini reunion. So anyways, I got a little bit of knitting done throughout the weekend, and I'll just show you what I'm knitting. I forgot to bring it last time, but thankfully Cody did a bit of driving, so I got some work done on my sleeves. This is the sweater number 8 by My Favorite Things. It's the one I said I had put down for a while because I really didn't like the fit of it. And I think through blocking, I'm gonna be able to get this to fit like I want it to. The basic issue is that it's a little too snug. So you'll notice the whole thing is ribbed, and that means it kind of fits like, I don't know, someone's wrapped you in saran wrap. But I think if I block it, it will relax. You can see it's got a lot of stretch to it. But I'm almost done with one of the sleeves. I've probably got about 15 centimeters to go. The whole pattern's written in centimeters, so that's why I'm telling you it in centimeters. But yeah, I think I'll like it. I'm getting definitely sick of the 2x2 rib, but the upshot to this is I love the yarn. The yarn was spun here. It is from a mixture of one of our sheep's wool, Maisie, mixed with 30% Savage Heart Farm, Peggy's Farm's white Corriedale. So it's Corriedale wool, all locally raised, spun here, 3-ply. It's absolutely lovely. And so we'll see how it goes. And it's got, of course, the Italian bind off, or I don't think I did tubular here. I think it's just Italian. So it's got that nice edge, and at the very least, it will be warm, and it would stretch probably to fit anybody because it is so dang stretchy with all that ribbing. So that's what I'm working on. I've got a few projects on the horizon. I'm not really sure which one I want to tackle next. I know one of the last times we came on, I talked about drafting a pattern. So I borrowed a few books from Peggy. The Ann Budd books, they're like a top-down sweater book, but they basically have all of the sizes. So you pick what your gauge of yarn is, and then you knit a swatch, and it can tell you how to design all these different sweaters. But part of the thing that I like most about knitting is that I can kind of zone out and relax and not think about things and just feel the fibers like going across my fingers and hear the sound of my needles as I knit. I often do it while doing something else like watching TV. And I'm not sure if I have to spend the time designing something, or I'm a little unsure what it's gonna look like in the end, if it's gonna be as relaxing. So I don't know, I'd be curious to hear from you all, like, are you drafting your own patterns? Do you like to follow other people's patterns? What's nice about following other people's patterns is you can go on Ravelry, it's kind of a sure thing, you see how everyone else is doing it, but since I've never drafted my own, I wonder if there's some satisfaction I'd get from doing it myself. And Peggy does a lot of self-drafting, or she'll, follow these Ann Budd sweater books and make whatever she wants to make, and that's awesome. But I don't know if I have it in me yet. So, and then I a little bit worry that if I get into pattern drafting, then I'll want to become a pattern designer, and I've got way too much on my plate to add yet another hobby. So I don't know if I should just stay in my lane and make the yarn and follow someone else's patterns, but we shall see. There's also a little baby, one of my friends is having, so I'm thinking about a baby sweater next. So yeah, we'll see. I've still got another sleeve to do, but as I've alluded to, I may just finish this sleeve, drop it for a little while, and pick it back up. So I think now is a great time to go to the interview I did with Emma. So without further ado, I will let them introduce themselves. All right. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Millcast.
Thanks.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? Yourself.
My name's Emma Percy. I have been working at the mill for a little over 2 months now.
Wow, has it been that long already?
Yeah, I just looked because I couldn't remember, and it was April 11th.
Okay.
It's my first day.
It has flown by.
It felt like longer than that somehow.
Okay. Could be good, could be bad.
In a good way. Yeah. No, it's felt very like a natural fit. So.
Great.
Yeah.
What's it been like? First of all, I guess what were you doing up till this point, and what's the transition been like?
Yeah, so I'm an artist, and I do paper making, bookbinding, printmaking, a little bit of several different things in that area, and moved to the Upper Valley about 1.5 years ago. So I was doing farming before that, and then since I've been here, it's kind of bouncing around, just trying to get to know the area and figure out what my place here is going to be.
Yeah.
I worked at the bookstore for a little while.
Yes, my very favorite bookstore, the Norwich Bookstore.
Yeah. And I don't know.
That's great. So what's it been like, I guess, onboarding at the mill?
Yeah.
So I guess what you had some fiber experience doing weaving?
Right. Yeah, I've done a little bit of weaving, mostly just making things for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done some natural dyeing and paper making.
Very cool.
So that's with cellulose fibers up until this point. So I was still kind of new to wool.
Do people ever make paper with protein fibers?
No, it doesn't work that
Okay.
way because the way that paper works is through hydrogen bonding. So it's like
Interesting.
the actual cells of the fibers, when they get wet, they'll separate, and then when they
Okay.
dry, they stick back together.
Huh.
Um,
And the protein fibers
protein
don't do
fibers
that.
just have a different structure. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Emma brought in their like sample book, and it was like all these different papers made from everything from like what you'd expect, like the cotton or the like newsprint that's recycled, but then you had some wild stuff in there, like egg cartons
Yeah.
and clothing.
Yeah, I really like working especially with wild plants and
Like what are some of the plants?
like nettle, milkweed, pretty much anything that has a long fiber inside the stem, and then some other leafy things like cattails or garden plants like garlic and
And you can see like the color of the plant in the paper
the
itself.
color does come through a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of it ends up being kind of like brownish gray.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've had this fiber experience, but like a different type of fiber.
Right.
And then you thought, I think I'll apply to work at the wool mill.
Yeah, I was just really interested in this place, kind of like from the outside. And yeah, I think I guess the most challenging part, but also the best part in a way, has just been learning how to understand a material that I hadn't really worked with before. Like on the job, figuring out how does this material actually work, and how do I make it do what I want it to do.
That's a really interesting way of putting it, sort of stepping back from the like individual, like how do I pick and card and all that, but trying to understand like wool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the machines themselves having their little quirks.
Yes.
Remembering all of that.
Yeah.
So.
What's been, sort of the biggest challenge, I guess?
Yeah, I guess learning the ins and outs of setting up a spin run, the custom processing, and because there's also that pressure of it's someone else's wool that we want to make it perfect, as perfect as we can.
We try.
But yeah, just I guess learning how the spinner works and how the different facets of it will affect the finished product.
Yeah.
It just takes practice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were like up to speed on like the carder within like a matter of hours, and I mean there's quirks to all of these things, but the spinner, especially like you said, custom processing. And the reason is just it's different. Like every single job we do, we look at like what is this type of fiber, and is it crimpy? Is it straight? Is it lustrous? They all play into it.
What's the length?
Yep. What do you think has helped you understand sort of get to know the nature of the wool?
Yeah, I guess just over time seeing the finished yarn and knowing what it was before, and starting to make those connections of like this amount of crimp will probably create these sorts of conditions when we're spinning, and just starting to learn what the different characteristics of different breeds are. I think just time and practice
What's it like being in here? You're here basically 4 days a week for full days. What does that feel like?
It feels good. It's I like just really diving into the process, and I guess just being totally focused in that. It is it is humid and loud, but
summer is a real challenge in here.
But I used to, like I said, I did farming for a couple years, so it's definitely more pleasant than some of that stuff. But it's been great working with you and Peg and with Leah.
We paid her to say that.
No, but I mean, we all work together to make sure that everything's flowing smoothly, and it feels like as everyone gets to know each other, we're getting into a better rhythm with.
Yeah, it's come a long way since it was the days of Peg and I, all by ourselves and trying to figure everything out. Now we have like a little bit figured out, and we're trying to learn how do we manage to convey that to others in a way that is, you know, still fun. And we definitely have our moments of running in. We hear a noise. What's going on?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? It's like, no, I just set my water bottle down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a question that has nothing to do with fiber, but I'm a big podcast listening nerd, and one of my favorite podcasts, the Ezra Klein Show from the New York Times opinion, they always end with book recommendations. And this is something I've come to know about Emma since they joined, is that you are very interested in books. And like we said, you used to work at the Norwich bookstore, so I thought I'd ask you, what are 3 books that you would recommend? And by the way, Cody is reading your most recent book recommendation, loves it, and wants me to get the next ones in the series for
great.
it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So maybe you can mention what that one is, because I forgot what it is. The Unseen?
Yeah, it's called The Unseen by Roy Jakobsen, spelled like Jacobson.
Yep.
And it's about, this family that lives on a little island off the coast of Norway.
Yeah.
I really love that one, and I haven't read the sequels yet, but that's on the list. I just finished reading a book called Thistlefoot, which is by a Vermont author actually, and it's very based on like Baba Yaga folklore.
That is
and,
so funny.
Theater.
You're mentioning that. I have never heard of Baba Yaga, but I went to listen our local like thrift store the other day with Maeve to get her some new pants. And we stumbled into the children's book section, which is a gem, and they're all like $1.
Yeah.
And I saw, she was starting to freak out, so I didn't have much time to like really look. But I saw Baba Yaga on the shelf. I was like, this looks beautiful, and like the illustrations are nice, so I got it for her. So Cody's read it a couple times with her, but like, it's just one of those wild, like, I've never seen or heard of this thing, and now you're bringing it up here. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
That one, it was at parts kind of goofy, and at other parts really scary.
Thistlefoot.
Okay. And but yeah, overall really liked it. It digs into a lot of, interesting history too. And third book, I guess I have been on this folklore kick recently. There's a book called Hag that I really like, and it's a collection of contemporary British and Irish authors retellings of different folk stories. But it's not just like, oh, I'm taking the old story and putting it in a modern context. They're like these really fascinating, like totally different stories, but that have elements of those older myths, I guess, in them.
Fun.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for agreeing to come on the Millcast today. And we will let you get back to work.
Cool.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
Wow. I cannot believe 2 months just flew by. We really, really are thankful that we found such awesome folks to come into the mill and start to make this place run a little bit more as a team rather than just as Peg and I. So thank you to Emma for being on the Millcast and for being here at the mill. Let's see. So I wanted to follow up on some of the topics that we discussed last week. As I mentioned, we're going to Rhinebeck. That's in October. Peggy was right. We definitely needed to book our accommodation. So I wanted to let y'all know I booked it. We're staying at an Airbnb. I'm not sure yet if it's just going to be Peg and me or if Cody and Maeve are going to join for the weekend. They had a fun time last year when Cody and I and our friend Isaac went to just sort of do some checking out of the event and seeing how it was. So he kind of just wants to go, and I think that would be fun. So we'll probably all end up going, and we may end up stopping by Woolen Folk the day before. We'll see. So we heard from a lot of you that you're planning on coming to Rhinebeck, so we can't wait to see you. Definitely stop by the booth and mention the Millcast. It's just such a joy for us, and you'll see us in the midst of hopefully some very fun chaos that will be Rhinebeck. I also wanted to respond. Someone mentioned, so I made a house sweater for my husband Cody that's like a big cable monster, and he's been asking for pockets for a while. And so I think he wanted me to like cable him some pockets, but anyways, I cleared out my stash at some point, gave away the yarn, so I don't even have the yarn. I probably could get the yarn again, but someone mentioned just cutting and sewing in pockets. Oof, I don't know if I could do that. I made Maeve a little sweater. I'm pretty sure that was when we were just beginning the Millcast, and it's it was color work, and I steeked it, which is like when you set it up so that you can cut the knitting to make it, instead of a pullover, it ended up being a cardigan, and I messed it up somehow. Not sure what I did wrong. I really closely followed the directions, and sure enough, after I cut it, the worst happened. It started to unravel, so I ended up using my sewing machine and my serger to take a little bit of scrap wool fabric that I have and like encasing both of the cut edges and like serging them, and I don't know, it was a whole big mess. And at the end of it, I said, never again am I steeking, but I don't know, maybe I should get myself out of my comfort zone a little bit. But that was just a baby sweater, and she was even smaller than she is now. So I'm not sure how I feel about doing that to a grown man's sweater that took me most of Game of Thrones to knit. So I don't know. I also wanted to give a shout out to the guy out there whose daughters taught him how to knit. We sort of asked, are the men in your life knitting? It is, for whatever reason, kind of rare for men to be knitting, and it's mostly women we see at these events, and I just don't know why that is. I think it's a great hobby for everybody, so we love to hear it when there's two knitters in a household, or just you're a dude that knits. We bought this whole mill from a dude that knits, so we know they're out there. It's just fun to connect with them. So shout out to the dad and husband who learned to knit from his two daughters. That is very cool and inspirational. Maybe other daughters out there will teach their dads to knit. All right, without further ado, what are we working on in the mill? So we say this every week, we've been busy. Right now we're focusing a lot on our Making Tracks line of yarn because we know that's what we need to stock for Rhinebeck. So we started out with some poolside. Here it is. This is just a straight up blend of blues, and it's named Poolside, I think for obvious reasons. It looks very summer appropriate. It's just got that really beautiful tonal look to it. The variegation on this is very subtle. So it would be, it may not be the best for like the really dramatic yokes, but maybe like a whole sweater would look really gorgeous in this. Actually, I stopped up, we went through Montpelier this weekend, and I stopped at Notion, which is one of our wholesale partners who carry our yarn, and there was an awesome shop sample, and I'm kicking myself for not getting a picture, but they basically knit a sweater in our solid in the clearing Making Tracks, and they did the technique where you alternate every other row, so you would be knitting with two skeins at once, so you do one row off this skein, one row off this skein, and it keeps the striping down. It just sort of, gives it a little bit more of a, I don't know, like a nice solid when you're knitting. So if anyone is interested in knitting a solid sweater with our yarn, I highly recommend that that technique. And this is Poolside. It would look lovely. Keeping on the cool colors and blues today, we have Alpenglow. This one is actually kind of a funny story. So we decided to reach out to folks on Instagram, and we did a little poll to see what color Making Track should we dye next. And this was what folks came up with. It's teals and pinks together. So it reminded me a lot of, as I said, I like to hike a lot. My husband and I were out with our friend in the mountains in Colorado, and we had this beautiful campsite, wild camping right near one of the 4,000 footers. I think it was, it wasn't El Capitan, I can't remember the name now. But anyways, this giant mountain, we were at the base of it, and as the sun set, it just glowed this like beautiful, beautiful pink. So that's sort of what this was inspired by. That's Alpenglow making tracks. And lastly, for making tracks, we have Pick Me Up Buttercup. And this is just a lovely blend of pastels. It would be, you know, I think a lot of people think baby blankets. It looks great with that. We've also seen this do some gorgeous things in the Inclination Shawl by Andrea Mowry. So this is a really lovely one. It's just got little pops of pastel yellows and greens and blues. It's lovely. And for non-making tracks, because we are still doing that, this is a Shetland 3-ply that I'm really excited to say we're going to carry some of this yarn. We arranged with the farmer to buy half of his fleece, so we spun it all. Half of it's going to go to him as custom processing, and half is going to be on our shelves. We're probably not going to sell this through our website, but if you're really interested in it, send us a message. We're happy to send you a custom invoice over email. That's hello@junctionfibermill.com. Not sure what we're pricing this at yet either, because it is 3-ply. And when we spin 3-ply, it takes us just that much longer to do the 3rd ply. This is all 2-ply yarn, so it takes a little bit less time. But it's really lovely. These Shetland sheep live in Norwich, just the next town over. Very well cared for, and this is just a really nice, dark chocolate brown color, almost black. And we're gonna have a couple other colors of this yarn as well. Well, folks, I think that's all I've got for you today. It's actually, getting to be summer here, and as Emma mentioned in the interview, it gets hot as heck in the mill some days, so I'm wearing nothing that I knit today. But I am wearing some old Ibex wool t-shirt, which I live in. For those who don't know, I used to work for Ibex in their marketing department right after I moved here. And unfortunately, the company got sold and is now based out of Colorado. The clothes they make are still lovely. But I would love to hear from you. Are you wearing other wool clothes besides your hand knits? I became a total wool convert, and I've got wool socks and wool underwear and wool shirts and everything. There's so many great wool clothing companies out there. But I'd love to hear who are you shopping with these days? If you're buying wool, and what other wool products do you love in your life? Drop us a comment, and as always, thank you for watching. Peg and I will both be back for next week, and we will see you then. Bye.